All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our June Rover ERP Master Class. I'm Allison, one of the customer success managers here, along with Andrew, our implementations manager, and Bill, our senior manufacturing consultant, and our sales manager. Today, we're going to go over Distribution 101, basic and advanced pricing through Rover. So I will let Andrew take over and go through it all.
All right. All right. So some advanced pricing the new pricing features in Rover, they kind of follow a distributor model. However, they also apply to manufacturers. It's just a different way of pricing your products, and it's quite flexible, we'll say. So to start, I'm just going to kind of review what we have had previously in Rover. We've got price control, where we would set these pricing codes, which we can apply at a customer level. So if I leave that open over here, and we drag in a test customer, I've got customer 27, and you can see the pricing code they are set to is retail, which matches this guy right here. And that's how we've always kind of determined these kind of pricing levels for different customers. And then along with that, we would have two entry screens. Pull those out. We have C price, which is less commonly used, and price.e, which is the one that everybody uses. C price is for our contracting price. So if you're dealing with a customer and, we are saying, hey, we're going to work with you. We'll set up a contract. You'll get some special pricing. You can define these part numbers, the price you're going to use, the quantity breaks, if there's a effective dates, right? If the customer or customers that it applies to, any notes, and whether or not the contract is active or not, right? So you can go into cprice.e and just fully disable a whole contract, and then it just doesn't apply anymore in the pricing calculations. Of note, cprice.e, or these contract prices, they supersede everything. They always have, and they, even after these enhancements, they still supersede everything. So if you have a contract price with a customer for a certain part, that's the price they're going to get 100% of the time. Now, secondarily, let's say we don't have a contract for a customer. Price.e is kind of that main screen where we can set per part our pricing. You can have quantity breaks, so I can, give a bit of a discount if they're ordering more than one. And you can also set your alternate prices and the effective dates. I like to describe them as kind of sales. You can have like your sale price and a sale start and end date. And then down here in this table, we've got those pricing codes that I showed earlier within price control, right? So you've got your retail. I can set, hey, if it's a retail customer, they're going to get either a 10% discount off of standard, or we can set a fully custom price and quantity break for retail customers with this cap 10 part. So that's a real quick kind of review of what pricing in Rover has been, obviously still is, but now we've layered on top the kind of distributor friendly, distributor style or advanced pricing on top of this. So the new stuff coming that has arrived, it's layered on top. So if you get an upgrade and you're using cprice.e and price.e, you get these new screens that I'm going to show you, and it doesn't affect what you already have going. Now you can start using the new ones, and they supersede price.e if they exist. So there's no harm in upgrading and getting these. It's not going to affect what you're currently doing, but you can either start implementing the new stuff over time or as you want, if you want to, and it'll just take precedence. So let's see, that's C price. Yeah, let's do an example here. So if I have my price set in SOE, I'm just going to start a sales order. All right? So if I add that to my cart, essentially an SOE, it's going to say, hey, for this cap 10, $6.75 is the default price. If I change the quantity up higher, I can get it to give me that $6, but that's kind of that default price. So the new stuff. Let's get to the new fun things. So we've got two new screens, M price and O price. M price is our multiplier pricing. So this is where we have an intersection between a customer price class, like dealer, retail, the stuff that's set here. I'll move that out of the way, right? These codes and a product price group. So price control got this new tab over here where you can define different product groups that you can sort your products into. So, I've just got two simple ones on this demo server for wheel caps and cables, right? And you'll see in this multiplier pricing, these prices that we're setting in this record apply to any customer that's a dealer in the dealer price group when they're purchasing any product in the wheel caps, right? So that's how we're getting to this. And then rewind a minute. We also have these basis codes that we define. You can define these to be whatever you want. Like I'm going to make that just list price. So this is essentially, you can think about it kind of in a way as, you've got your vendors and, maybe they supply you with price lists. And they normally, a lot of vendors have different columns depending on, how much you're buying. Let's say, and they might even give you a list price or an MSRP price, and we can load that in here, right? And we can define that. But essentially, you're going to be importing those price lists into Rover in the parts file, which we'll get to shortly. But this is where we define what each of these codes mean. So let me pull up the part. Yeah, it's a web here that all connects. So I've got this cap 10 part. In part study, there's a new tab called advanced pricing where we define the product groups. Again, we're in wheel caps. You get some read-only fields showing average and standard cost. Both are there depending on what you want to look at, right? And then there's those values. So this would be values that we'd probably import from a vendor price list or whatever the price we want to work off of, right? You can see, this still has the discount. I didn't save yet, but what each of these fields, what we want to call them. And then I've got $10 loaded as my quote unquote list price for this part. So going back to multiplier pricing, we get to choose which basis we're working off of, right? So in this case, I'm going to work off the list price, right? I can select whichever one we want to work off of because you may have, maybe certain vendors you're on basis 2, which is a better price. Let's say it's $9 instead, and basis 3 is $8, right? So depending on your vendor or the product group that you're working on, you may say, hey, we're working on basis 3 instead of the list price. You just have some flexibility there, but you select which basis, and then you can enter in a multiplier. So I like to think of this as markup, or depending, you can also do markdown. But it's set up very similar to Price ID, where you have your quantity breaks and then the multiplier that you're applying. So in this case, for this part, it'll be $10, and then we're applying a 40% markup, or we're timesing that $10 list price by 1.4. Let's see, do I have it open? I do not. Okay. But that's what we're doing here. If they, order 5, their markup is going to be 1.3. You don't have to do a markup. You can do a markdown. Just kind of depends on how you want to run this. For some vendors, you might work off list price and do a multiplier of 0.8 to go 20% off of list. Alternatively, you might have a different vendor saying, hey, I buy stuff at basis 2. That's essentially my quote unquote cost. And I want to apply a markup of 30%. So my multiplier is 1.3, right? So that's what we're setting here. There is a handy tool that also came along with this called price.q, which you can kind of like a calculator for you. So if I do 20, so this customer, Evan Supply, they're a retail customer. I don't have any M price associated for them with this part that this part falls into. And you can see for quantity of 1, it's using the price file, and that's cap 10, and that's that price. Now, if I change this to my little test user, which is a dealer, which you can see we're working with here, I do cap 10, it's saying, hey, I calculated this price from the M price file. This is the record. It does have open with, so it'll open this up for me. And here's the price. So again, where's that part study? It's working off of basis 1, list price. It's using that value 10, and it's multiplying it by 1.4. And that's how it's coming up with this. So right now, as we're looking at this one, this is based on quantity being ordered. You can see the column to the right, which is off of amount. So, if they're ordering $100 worth, maybe you want to change the multiplier they're using. It works off the amount being ordered instead of the quantity being ordered. So that's what that is. You set that, you change that here. So that's multiplier pricing. So again, dealing with intersections between customer price classes and product groups, which are defined in parts.e. The second screen is, move the M price out of the way and bring O price back. O price is, there's a lot more here. This is override pricing. So this overrides M price. And you can set some more specific things. So let's say, let me clear off this screen here real quick. Right, so our multiplier here for any customer in the dealer with a product group of cap, right, that's 1.4 is our multiplier. Let's say I wanted to have a customer specific override. So if I come in here, I put my test user in, you can make it specific to a certain ship to. So you can set different overrides depending on the ship to that you're going to be shipping the order to. I can either do a code, I can do like effective and expiry dates or sale start, sale end. We can do either a flat amount or a multiplier. I'm going to stick with the multiplier. And let's say for them, we don't want them to get the standard 1.4. They're going to get 1.2. And that's going to be the price they get. So if I save this, 3, I come back to, where did I put it? Price.q, and I hit refresh because I'm using that same customer. Come on now. What did I mess up? Customer specific, that cap, that should be showing me $12 with that markup. Not sure why it's doing that for me. Anyways, moving on. On top of the code override, oh, never mind. I have a setting I need to change in price control. Maybe that's what I did. All right. Anyways, there are some more tweakable settings there that you gotta get just right what you want. You can also set part overrides. So if I come over here and I specifically say, hey, just for this part number with this customer, we're going to do, here we go, markup of 1.1. And that should override that price Where'd it go? And lowest. Okay, so you can set these specific part overrides. Let's say, you've got in that cap product group, there are maybe 3 or 4 kind of specific items that you want to kind of have a different markup than the rest of the group. This is how you can do that. You can say the override type is P for price code. Price code would be, was I doing retail? And then you can set those parts. Let's do 110, whatever, to be a different multiplier than what was set in the M price. There is, I don't have this to show, but we are working on an import routine. So that way we can, if you get those price lists from different vendors, you can say, hey, column 2 is my list price, column maybe 5 is basis 2, 6 is 3, right? You can map which columns in the Excel sheet the vendor is providing you go where, and then it can, and tell it also where the part number is. And then you can import and fix these. So the big savings here is when you get your M price and O price set up the way you want it with your markups, then essentially, if your vendors say, hey, I am, raising all my prices by 10%, you can import that vendor price lists, your prices and these values change, and your prices automatically change because your markups are stable, right? You're keeping that same 1.4 markup, or maybe 0.8 markdown off of list. Your multiplication stays the same, and you're just changing the starting number you're working off of. Yeah, okay. So let's see. I come back here. There we go. I should have went back to SOE. So with those overrides, I have a part specific override for this cap 10 to be 1.1 off of that first basis. So it brought in the price is $11. 10 times 1.1 is 11. If I delete this and save, let's go back to SOE. Pop it in again. I should have, what was that, 3? Now it's working off this override of 1.2, which got me 12. All right, and then if I delete this entirely, yes, let's just remove that. It should bring me back to that 1.4 that is defined here in M price. So that's the new features that the new kind of pricing model we've got in Rover. Like I said, it kind of follows a distributor or a wholesale distributor kind of format where we're setting markups and then we're just, updating our vendor prices kind of in bulk. And then our prices are just automatically getting updated because we have our markups or markdowns set via M price or even O price if we're doing overrides. And that is all I've got. So back to you, Allison.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for your time today. Any questions or anything you guys have, feel free to reach out to any of us. And as always, if you guys have any suggestions on next master classes, shoot us an email or a phone call. We'll take any suggestions for future classes as well.
Thanks everyone. We'll end here.